its latest issue, The Real Deal takes a comprehensive look at the increasing number of price reductions for listings in Manhattan and Brooklyn. Real Deal reporter Jen Benepe sat down with Sophia Kim of Street Easy to talk about the price reduction data and to find out what types of apartments are being affected most.
Good morning, Sophia, and welcome to The Real Deal.
Thank you for having me.
So, Street Easy collected listing price data for The Real Deal magazine on Manhattan and Brooklyn new developments. And that data was based on pricing information that was sent to the Attorney General's office, and you found overall in your analysis that prices had gone down. Tell us first, what was the breakdown for Manhattan and Brooklyn?
In Manhattan, there were 178 increases versus 208 decreases. So 54% of the listings that saw price changes in Manhattan were decreases, whereas in Brooklyn, there were 64% of the listings that saw price changes were decreases.
And you mentioned previously that 183 went down versus 103 going up. That's pretty significant.
Yes, it is significant. And, brokers and developers in general, lowering prices is probably the last thing they would want to do. Developers are more keen on negotiating with the buyer in terms of maybe covering closing costs, paying part of the mortgage tax, or requiring a lower down payment. But now developers are, they're wanting to move the units more quickly.
Let's talk a little bit, drill down a little bit into the Manhattan neighborhoods. For example, there were price reductions in some neighborhoods over others. For example, Harlem, Upper Manhattan, Chelsea. Was that a result of greater inventory, or maybe that these neighborhoods aren't as desirable as some of the others?
Well, in Harlem, in Upper Manhattan, families who wanted to move to the Upper West Side, and those who were finding that they were priced out of that market, they were moving north. And developers saw that, and they made a mad rush to put up all these developments in Upper Manhattan and stretch the boundaries of the Upper West Side. So in a softer market, it's these fringe areas that are going to see more reductions.
And now also in Brooklyn, there were areas like fringes of Park Slope where you saw some of the same evidence of price reductions. What was that? What was happening there? The same thing?
Yeah, it was very surprising to see price reductions in Park Slope, but a lot of the reductions were for last units in the development. There were reductions in the 151-unit building called Novo, and that building has, awkward layouts, smaller, much smaller rooms, and there was another one, the Heritage, and that was, a first-floor unit.
So, speaking about those units, is there any kind of relationship that you're seeing in the numbers to the sizes of the apartments, such as one-bedroom, two-bedroom, studio? Anything moving faster, moving slower, and more price reductions in one or the other, in either of the two boroughs?
In Manhattan, two bedrooms had twice as many decreases than they had increases. Whereas in Brooklyn was a different story. The three bedrooms had twice as many decreases than increases, and the two bedrooms had 3 times as many decreases. So it indicates to me that there's an oversupply of 2 bedrooms.
Okay, so I was going to ask you, talk about specific developments that you looked at, like the Lucida and the Rushmore at Lincoln Square. Rise or fall in prices at those projects, and why?
The Lucida actually had price increases. They had 3 price increases, I think totaling $2.1 million. Whereas the Rushmore, I think, saw 4 increases for totaling $275,000, so not as dramatic, and 1 decrease of $116,000.
Now, you were also able to track some of those listings to contracts, and you found that in percentage of cases, the contracts went through when the prices were lowered. What was going on there?
In Brooklyn, it was very surprising. 6% of the units that had price decreases went into contract, whereas 35% of the listings that had price increases went into contract. There could be something psychological going on. Developers, when they raise prices, they, sometimes create a sense of urgency among buyers.
Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you for having me.